Great Britain then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every single year of the Formula One World Championship. And the circuit extends that record further for today's Grand Prix. With good opportunities to overtake at the end of the Wellington and Hangar Straights, there's a lot of potential for close action around the 3.6 miles of the Silverstone circuit. With 18 corners and average lap speeds of around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the longest and quickest circuits on the calendar. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Carlos Sainz and Leclerc, Ricciardo, Gasly, Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Robert Schwartzman and Stroll. The owner driver, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Mick Schumacher, George Russell and Kimi Raikkonen. Norris, Fernando Alonso, Mazepin and Nicholas Latifi. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I am pretty hyped because we're here for the lovely British Grand Prix. It's finally arrived in our career mode. We've had 5 fabulous races at the start of the season in the first half, and now we get into the second half of the season at Silverstone, one of my favourite tracks, one of a lot of people's favourite tracks. And this race, I can assure you, is going to be an absolute banger, as I'm sure that you guys can see. We're a little bit further back on the grid than we were in qualifying. That's due to an engine penalty, so we've got quite a bit of work to do in the race. But before we do get into the grid, I'm going to quickly go over the strategy. 2 different ones here. Either a 1-stop from soft, medium, or a 1-stop from soft to hard. Bit of an interesting strategy there of which one to go for. I'm probably going to go with 11 laps on the softs, 15 laps on the mediums. I do think that the hards might be a better race tyre, but definitely think that the mediums are going to be pretty tasty. In terms of our pace, is actually apparently going to be better by quite a chunk on the mediums. But yeah, I think we shall go with the 1-stop soft medium. It's probably the most used strategy. If I'm struggling with tyre wear on the softs, I might box in a lap 8, 9, 10, go a bit earlier, but come on the hards. But I think the soft to medium strategy will be the best. So we're going to go with that. And now, be a good chance to have a look at the lovely grid before we get into some action. Your grid then, a lovely 22 driver 1, of course, in the career mode. And on pole, Max Verstappen, with Valtteri Bottas completing the front row. Then you've got Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez just behind. Looking at this top 4, you know, Bottas championship leader, then it's Verstappen, then Hamilton. That is really quite interesting there, because if Verstappen stays ahead of Bottas in the race, it will close in a bit of that massive gap we have at the moment, which would be great to see if he could close that gap in a little bit and make it a bit more spicy in terms of the championship. If we could have a season finale where we've got 2 drivers fighting in Mexico, that'd be fantastic, especially if they hit each other and collided and crashed. Imagine that. You know, but Max Verstappen, if he can stay in P1, he will close up the gap a little bit to Bottas and can keep wearing down Bottas's fantastic first start. Well, start to the season, first half, of course. Lewis Hamilton, P3, if he stays there, he's going to drop even further away from the 2 championship antagonists at the moment, and it looks like if he does finish behind them today and Verstappen leads Bottas, it could pretty much be Hamilton going out of the equation. Checo Perez is P4. He needs a good result to be able to catch back up to the front three, these guys in the Drivers' Championship, but it is going to be Red Bull with the advantage over Mercedes. But Silverstone, plenty of overtaking opportunities. Anything can happen. It probably won't stick. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, P5 and 6. Of course, only Daniel Rick, in the top 10 for McLaren. Lando Norris is right down in the bottom few, and that is because he was knocked out in Q1 with Fernando Alonso. We'll get to that in a minute. But despite Ferrari struggling a little bit in earlier sessions, they're P5 and 6. Sainz needs to catch up to Leclerc, so does Danny Rick. But he'll need a lot more than finishing one position ahead of him for the next few races if he wants to do that, because Leclerc's had some fantastic results so far this season, and he'll be looking to continue that. But for once, the Spaniard starts ahead of the Monegasque. Be interesting to see if it stays like that in the race. Then Danny Rick, P7 for McLaren, the only McLaren driver in the top 10. And it's looking bad for McLaren because they're already a long way behind Ferrari. And if both Ferraris finish ahead of Danny Rick, then they're going to be even further adrift and possibly almost out the equation in terms of what's actually possible this weekend. Pierre Gasly, P8, alongside Yuki Tsunoda, P9 for AlphaTauri. Both of them begin in the top 10 here. A fantastic quali for them, taking advantage of others' misfortune in Q1. Great to see Tsunoda up there. Hopefully he can get some more points. And then Esteban Ocon, P10 for Alpine. Will he stay there or will he fall back? He's the only Alpine really in contention for this race, and they still yet to score. Will it be 6 rounds with no points? Or well, into the second half of the season, Alpine jump back and have a bit of a resurgence starting today with points from Esteban Ocon. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but he's got Vettel just behind him. He'll be looking for some points after last race. Didn't manage to take any at Austria, dropping behind Gasly in the pit stops. Couldn't defend from him for the whole race, and that left him just outside the points. Will that trend continue, or can the German get towards 10 points in the Drivers' Championship? Then you've got Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo, very highly placed compared to usual, but taking advantage of that Alfa Romeo's strength at the moment, heading back up to the midfield fight with Alpine dropping below. Question will be, can Antonio continue that form on slicks in the race and maybe get Alfa Romeo towards the points? That'll be interesting. My teammate Robert Schwartzman, best start of the season, helped a bit by me taking a grid penalty. He'll be in front of us. Hopefully he will let us pretty comfortably through. I think we'll have more pace than him. It was a bit of a team order favour sort of thing. It might be helpful. I wish we could do that for them and then they could do that for us. That would be a good idea, maybe for the next season. The next game. Yeah, that'd be great, because it would help. But Robert Schwartzman starting P13. Hopefully he can get another decent result. He was going to get points at Spain, but then he got collected by spinning George Russell really luckily. So hopefully he will have a good race today. Lance Stroll starts P14. Low focus for him. If he can overcome that, he could get a decent result in a fairly strong Aston Martin. But if he can't, he won't really be going anywhere other than backwards. We start P15. Plenty of work to do after that grid penalty. We sort of have an on and off pace for the top 10. We'll have to see how much progress we can make in this one. Schumacher got out of Q1 for the first time this season. Starts P16. He'll probably be going backwards, but it might help us in slowing up Norris and Alonso. Russell starts P17, the Brit quite a way down the order. But he's only 2 places behind us. He's got some work to do in the race if he wants to get up the order, but the Williams isn't that strong, dropping down to the Haas. Similar pace to Schumacher maybe in the race, and we could see a bit of a battle there. Raikkonen P18, poor quali from him, just couldn't get a good lap in. Wasn't helped by him being behind us really in Q1, but he got knocked out, and he's got a lot of work to do from P18 in a car that's probably better than where he is in relation to the Haas's and the Williams. Lando Norris starts P19 with Alonso P20. They set out on the wets, and I thought that would be safe, but the Inters were so much quicker by the end of Q1 that they were caught out on the wets, not going out again, and they both went out of quali. So watch for a charge from Lando Norris, the home Brit, and of course the Spaniard Fernando Alonso. And then of course rounding out the grid, Nikita Mazepin and a fairly low focus, struggling Nicholas Latifi. Well then, that is your grid review. I'm not going to talk much more about it because it's Silverstone. There's DRS zones, plenty of overtaking opportunities. The grid is going to change. Let's get into some Silverstone racing. Well, we have had actually a few visual glitches recently, a bit on the halo at the moment, and of course the no helmet glitch. We're still racing with a balaclava. What we are going to do is get into, hopefully, an exciting British Grand Prix, our home race here at Silverstone. 5 red lights. They're out and away we go. It's not the best of lifts, but then we managed to get good traction, a good start for my teammate as he is fighting Giovinazzi into the first corner. We're going to go around the outside there, and it's Vettel versus Ocon. It's 3 wide at the moment between ourselves there, and we're going to absolutely send it down the inside line here. There's not much space. Yellow flags. I think it's a bit of just congestion. And coming through is Sebastian Vettel, but we're up into P10, and the Alpines are out the points. It looks like Pierre Gasly is ahead of a McLaren, and now we're going to have to defend a little bit from Seb Vettel into Brooklands. He comes past us there, but we're going to get the run into the long right-hander of Lovefield, and then hopefully the exit to deter him from trying something into lovely Cops, and we managed to stay in P10. Ricardo is, yes, behind an AlphaTauri. Things are going from bad to worse here for the McLaren team, with Lando Norris still far down the field as we're chasing a little Yuki Tsunoda in front. The Japanese man had some fantastic results recently.
Warm, reducing our overall capacity. The more charge you hold, the faster that capacity will drop.
I do understand, and then Danny Rick in front has a teeny little sneaky peek. Doesn't go for anything too naughty. You don't want to be risking anything too much on lap 1 of a 26-lap British Grand Prix. Verstappen leads here. The front 4 as they were. Then you got your 2 Ferraris. We started with 2 Ferraris there, and we are going to go to race replays in a very much short amount of time as we just begin the second lap here and flirt with some oversteer. We have got quite a big train behind us. My teammate, I do believe, is currently P13. We need to try and catch back up to Tsunoda after that little mistake. And Vettel is not going to allow us to go to race replays. He is going to force us to defend again. Seb Vettel, the German, clearly thinks we're very slow, very rubbish, and wants to come through. Not exactly the quickest at the moment, but we have got some catching up to do. As always then, the race replay start. We were starting down in P15. Looking at the front end of things, it was a decent start for Max Verstappen alongside Valtteri Bottas. Sergio Perez having a look into the first corner. You've got the Ferraris there. And then Bottas stays ahead of Hamilton. We were right there in the middle of a 3 wide, managed to get through there and then send it down the inside of Esteban Ocon and Seb Vettel. Then it's 3 wide through here, and then Ocon peels off. It's ourselves versus Seb Vettel, as in front it's Leclerc versus Pierre Gasly. We keep the position on Seb Vettel and stay up in P10. Fernando Alonso not making much progress, as then Sebastian Vettel fought with us again through here. We managed to stay ahead. Solid start for ourselves, up into the points already, the British Grand Prix, and hopefully we can continue that on in this one with Yuki Tsunoda just in front at the moment. Lando Norris starting to make a bit of progress behind, you could see there, up into P18 past Kimi Raikkonen. Well, this is a little replay from the end of lap number 1. It's the 2 Brits, Lando Norris and George Russell, fighting with Schumacher just in front in his Haas. And then we go side by side. Russell tries to send it back down the inside of Lando Norris, and Lando Norris now going to have the inside line for this tight left-hander. And he's going to go side by side with him through this section, leave some space. And that's Lando Norris back up into P17. But here comes George Russell. Fantastic exit. Gets the inside line. The Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen having a look in the background. But then Lando Norris braves it through there. P17. One Brit ahead of another. Well, we are on lap number 3 here. DRS has been enabled. Nothing really happened on lap number 2. We've been trying to catch up to Yuki Tsunoda, but he's still getting a lovely chunk of DRS from an attacking Danny Rick in front. We sadly have had an off for a Williams there. we're going to have a look at what happened to them in a second. A bit of a shame for them. Hopefully it's... Don't really want it to be Russell, you know. I think it's not Russell because he was a bit higher up the order and he looks to be at the moment. He wouldn't want that as home Grand Prix, but Latifi's focus might come down again if he's spun and it's been a frustrating incident. You know, if he's getting frustrated, that's going to be costly. But Lando Norris making progress. Not that much, though, from the Alpine as Ricciardo and Gasly are fighting. Ricciardo back ahead. Great work from him. And that could be pivotal here in this Grand Prix for him. He can't let the Ferraris get away. That is his job. He is flying the flag for McLaren this weekend, and the Ferraris have already managed to dash off a teeny little bit. We are still too far back from P9. Yuki Tsunoda at the moment. This is where we qualified, actually, P10. This is where we should have been had we not been taking an engine penalty. And at this point, I can actually justify P10. Maybe Vettel is a little bit quicker at this stage in the Grand Prix, but we certainly don't have the pace of Tsunoda. Bit of a train behind us, but it is starting to slowly split up. And the gap to Tsunoda isn't really increasing by that much. We aren't really dropping too far back from him as... What was that? Another, like, gosh, come on, Seb, calm it down a little bit. I know you're desperate, but you need to go for a move there. What we do want to do is try to catch up to Tsunoda. Tsunoda's starting to get isolated now from teammate Pierre. That is going to hopefully help us get towards him. Now he's not really getting much DRS because he is dropping away. Now he's not getting that DRS. We can try and maybe put some decent laps in, catch up to him and get the DRS on him, because he's probably going to start to drop away a little bit as the front four are as close as normal, basically. No real changes there. You know, a very close top four, separated by barely nothing. Equally, though, are the Ferraris. Ricciardo has got a lot of work to do, but lap number 4, and we are going not too badly here at the British Grand Prix. Well, then a replay of what happened on lap number 3. This was, of course, Nicholas Latifi taking the curb, too aggressive on the throttle, and he's round. A shame for Latifi, he was in P22 anyway, and now he plays let's try and go around on the grass, onto the runoff, and that's Latifi, way behind Nikita Mazepin. What a shame for the Canadian, just a bit of a disastrous Grand Prix so far, replay even spinning, a bit like his season so far. Live here, and my teammate's going pretty comfortably at the moment, Robert, P13, he's being chased down by young Lando Norris here. Lando's going to have a look. The McLaren is going to have a look through Maggots and Beckett's and some side-by-side action. Braves it out. A little bit messy through there. That's Lando up into P13. He's continuing to charge. Won't be long until he's trying to fight the other Dynamo Mechanics F1 car for P10 against ourselves. Well then, lap number 6. Again, not much happening for us. Williams has decided to pit. I think that's Latifi there. That's possibly from some damage from the earlier incident, or decided maybe a puncture, maybe decided that he just has enough of those tyres, maybe going for the one stop on the hards, a new strat. I think we're pretty comfortable for that actually. We are not looking too bad for tyre wear here on lap 26. In terms of the gap to Tsunoda, it's pretty much stabilised at around 3.3 to 2.8, you know. Behind, Vettel has dropped back a little bit. He did stick his nose in at us a little bit earlier in the lap. Since then, he has backed out a bit, and Lando Norris is absolutely flying here at Silverstone. That's P12 for him. Lovely to see him getting back up the order, despite a disaster at the side of this one, but he's got a big gap to the other Ferraris and his teammates. His teammates right at the back of them now. Lando Norris has got the overtake on Esteban Ocon, and he is charging up the field. Alonso's going at a much slower rate. He's down in P18, not had the greatest start. He was down in something like P21 or 22 at the start of this one, and down the inside, Lando Norris Lovely move on Seb Vettel, but he's going to try and go around the outside. Is Seb Vettel braving it, so we can get the inside line for Luffield. Side by side once again through here. Lando Norris, is he going to get the better exit? Or will it be Seb Vettel? Lando Norris on the outside line gets a slightly better exit. Heading into the right-hander, side by side, and now that's Sebastian Vettel back in front. Let's have a Hamilton and Verstappen over here at Copse. And it won't be, because Lando Norris is in front, up into P10, and we are next on his list of drivers to pick off. Well then, some lovely overtaking in 7 laps here from Lando Norris, all the way down from the bottom, pretty nearly the bottom of the field, up into P11. And sadly, he's chasing us down, and that is our point that we are defending. The problem in this situation is we have a choice. We either defend hard, or we do the other option, which is let him through. And I bet you guys are thinking, why let him through? This is a point. If we let him through, there is a chance of it helping us get to Tsunoda, because if then Tsunoda defends hard from Norris, we'll be able to catch up to them, maybe then be able to go for the move on the AlphaTauri. But I'm going to defend from Norris here, because we can. We might as well, you know. And if he gets past us, might get DRS for the next DRS zone, as we are very close to the gravel along the exit there. I'm pushing quite a bit at the moment, as I'm sure you guys can see. Great start from Lando, though. To come from towards the back of the grid to where he is now is pretty fantastic, isn't it? You know, P11 at the moment, and he's certainly eyeing up some points in this one. He's had a terrible start to the season here. It was a tactical mistake at McLaren that cost him it, but really, I think it was a bit of an unusual one. You know, I wasn't expecting that to happen. He's a little bit more gassed down this straight. He might have DRS on us. It's also helping us actually get away from the Aston Martin of Seb Vettel at the moment, because he's now only 3 seconds behind. Tsunoda only 2.6 in front. Gasly steadily getting away from us at the moment. He is quite a bit away from the two Ferraris and the McLaren.
2.4 seconds.
It is 2.4 seconds to the... Wait, to who? I don't even know. Is that to the driver? That'd be to Tsunoda, won't it? As I'm sure you can see, Lando Norris is looking pretty nice here as we head to the Wellington Straight. Another dose of DRS for the Brit. He's coming at us pretty hard at the moment, but it's not going to be. Into Brooklands, through lovely old Luffield. Try and get a good exit out of here. We're going to need it. We don't want Verstappen and Hamilton all over again at Copse. Certainly don't want that. Lap number 9. It has gone very quickly here for me. I've really enjoyed it so far. Hope you guys are enjoying this British Grand Prix. The field is very, very spread out at the moment. We haven't really had too much for ourselves since lap number 1. There has been action elsewhere, though, and that is what we want. Two Ferraris still defending from McLaren, the other McLaren, Norris's teammate, Danny Rick. And actually, we're pretty much catching up to Yuki here at this point in the Grand Prix, because we're pushing so much to defend from Lando. It is taking quite a lot out of my tyres, but it's not long until the pit stops here, so might as well use them up, even though it is the softest strategy possible round here. Really, really can still push with it. That's one thing I love about Silverstone. Tyre wear is not a problem. Push as much as you like, matey. Sometimes one stops if it is a little bit too high up, tyre wear high. You know, you can actually struggle a little bit. But Vettel quite a way behind with Ocon on his back. They're well out the point situation. Now is the main event here. We've been waiting for Mr. Lando. It's not the last lap, Lando, but it certainly isn't the first one here. Lap number 10. And we're going to defend it through Luffield pretty comfortably. How much time does it cost us to Tsunoda? About a tenth here. We've got to continue defending from Lando, but so far, not proving too difficult. Well, every man for themselves, that's what some people like to say, capitalists specifically. And it looks like that's happening at Ferrari, because Charles Leclerc is having a look at Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc is going to try and brave it out through Brooklands, get the inside line for Luffield, and it's a comfortable move there. He's got to be careful, because this civil war going on at Ferrari between these two could invite Danny Rick into the equation on the back of Carlos Sainz. Danny Rick has a look. Don't have an accident into Corp, so we know what can happen there. Will there be? Oh, it's side by side through there. Keep it clean on the exit. But Carlos just stays ahead. Leclerc P5, Sainz P6, with Danny Rick in P7. Well then, we haven't had much of a break here on lap number 10. It's Norris coming at us again. But we are going to hopefully defend it through this long right-hander. Get a decent run down the hill. Despite the defending, we are catching up to Tsunoda even closer now this lap. We want to be able to get to him because probably not going to be able to defend from Lando for the rest of this Grand Prix. We are going to need a little bit of help here. But the tunnel vision I'm starting to get from Tsunoda is certainly helping despite the tyre wear. It really does help. I've got that sort of tunnel vision. The car's in front. I will put in much better laps than I was before in a race. Really unusual, I know, but great to see. Robert Schwartzman, he's got a defending stat. That needs to be raised at the moment. Doing fantastically well defending from Antonio Giovinazzi and Lance Stroll in this one as Lando Norris had a little think about going for the move. He does actually go for it. And he's round. Oh, Lando, I left you so much space, mate. Lando. Oh, I feel so guilty now. After Bahrain. Lando, mate, I'm sure I left you space. I didn't even get a warning for that. But Lando's round. It could have been such a fantastic British Grand Prix. We might have to have a look at a replay of that. What a shame. Lando Norris is round. Some of the drivers are entering the pit this lap. I don't think we need to. I think we're pretty fine at the moment. Is Tsunoda going to come in? No, he isn't. Gasly is into the pits. We're going to have to push to Tsunoda. But, it puts us in a very nice position for points here. But such a shame for Lando. What a shame as Leclerc is into the pits with Danny Rick at the moment. Pit stops are going to be crucial here. Those going earlier will probably have a little bit of an advantage with the undercut. Teeny bit of an advantage for those who go later on in it. But what a shame for Lando. I can't believe that's just happened.
Started to drop back. There's a gap beginning to form.
And we are within DRS for the first time as Tsunoda. An overtake's looking pretty likely later in this one. Well, we need to see a replay of this. This was the incident with ourselves and Lando Norris. I take the inside line for Brooklands, go quite deep into it to be fair with you. And then, plenty of space at Lovefield, sends it down the inside line, spins off me onto the grass. That's very costly for Lando Norris. Gets back. No, he doesn't. He's forced to stop. So let Vettel and Ocon come through. Forced to swap for my teammate, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Alonso. And I'd be taking risk at this point because you might as well. Raikkonen, George Russell, Mick Schumacher, and he's forced to rejoin in P20 for a safe rejoin. Very costly there. We'll have a look at it from another angle in a second. Well, this is what happened if your name's Lando Norris into this tight right-hander. Have we left him enough space? I think so, really. He sent it down the inside line. It's a racing incident. You can't really send it down the inside line there. I've left him as much space as I can without going and taking the full outside line and giving him the position. Well, we could be here on for an overtake on these softs. Tsunoda looks like he's struggling a little bit at the moment. He is right just in front of us within 7/10. It's going to be some DRS. Don't think we're going to get an overtake, but it'll be an interesting run down towards the pit lane. Is he going to come in this lap? We could try and undercut him, or we could try and go for the move on him. I don't know. Are you coming in this lap, Tsunoda? Coming in? We're not coming in. We're going to stay out, mate. I'm going to go for the overcut. And there's a yellow flag. Something, someone, somewhere's going slowly. It's a Haas now.
Box. We're coming in this lap.
And can I just say, we are leading our home Grand Prix here. Shame for Mick Schumacher. Out of the Grand Prix. That's a yellow flag. Thankfully for us, though, we can now try and put something decent in to maybe get the overtake on Tsunoda. He should be alright on fresher tyres than us for the position, but we might have a bit fresher tyres later in the Grand Prix to go for the overtake then. We lead our home Grand Prix. It will be for the rest of this lap, but we need our home Grand Prix. Savour the moment, people. Hopefully, we'll be leading our home Grand Prix once all the pit stops are done in another season. But it is Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas and Perez in the battle for the win at the moment. Of course, Hamilton ahead of his teammate from where they started. Other than that, no changes. Well then, time for a pit stop. As you can see, young Mick Schumacher sadly parked at the side of the road here. Shame for him in this one, but you know, it's
Okay, clear.
F1. We've been lucky so far with reliability, as in we come nicely in, and we will be getting a fresh set of tyres on. We no longer lead the British Grand Prix, or at least we won't in a second. It's Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Perez. But I have to say, Verstappen has a huge lead at the moment. It's certainly looking interesting there. Is that Bottas getting past Hamilton? Bottas past Hamilton there. Spicy. Interesting stuff.
Exit now.
Another yellow flag. Is that an Alfa Romeo going slowly now? Ah, dear. We've lost another one to mechanical failure, have we? I don't know, but it looks like it. Sonoda
Okay,
is coming
stay
along.
Clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross over into the track.
Is it the move on Sonoda? Yes, we've got it done. Staying out a lap later. We've got the move on Sonoda done. I think it is sadly for Antonio, or is it Kimi? I think it might be Kimi. Sadly, a mechanical failure there. What a shame for him. Well, man, and it is Danny Rick in the pit stops ahead of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. He's jumped both of them. Absolute madness here. That order has been absolutely flipped at the moment. We have the overtake on Yuki Tsunoda. There is, sadly, a parked Alfa Romeo. We have not been told that it's a mechanical here. Probably because we were in the pits when it happened. I don't know, but we'll come towards the end of this lap to check that out. Certainly don't have great pace in this situation because I've got no car in front of me to have tunnel vision with.
Caution.
But we'll have a quick look at what the incident was.
Someone's come off ahead of you. There's a yellow flag ahead.
Ah, he's just parked there. It looks like a mechanical failure for Antonio Giovinazzi's second one. We have lost to that cause today. So hopefully we'll actually have no more and finish with 20 drivers. That would certainly be nice. We don't want to get rid of all the action here by removing the drivers to make the action happen. But shame for Lando Norris all the way down the order there. Back where he started in a sense. And now there's a bigger gap to make up. It's not going to happen. Got nearly a 10-second lead on Seb Vettel. We'll be fine with the amount of tyres we've got. Just got to continue on pushing as my teammate's still ahead of what is, I do believe, Lance Stroll and an Alpine of Fernando Alonso, who's made progress, but not that much so far. Well then everyone, a little bit of an after pit stop refresh. Max Verstappen leads Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas, of course, has got the overtake on Hamilton in the pits with Perez P4. Danny Rick has jumped both Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in this one. This is Charles is on board at the moment. Then as you look further down the field, you've got Pierre Gasly P8, ourselves P9 with Tsunoda P10. Vettel just outside the points, followed by Esteban Ocon, my teammate Robert Schwartzman, who's defending from a train of Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, and then a little bit further back you've got Kimi Räikkönen. Well then, we actually are starting to get away from Yuki Tsunoda. We continue with some very decent pace in this one. We certainly are, just trundling along nicely around Silverstone. We're going consistently, and that lap was a very tasty one. We're starting to catch up a little bit to Pierre Gasly, who certainly dropped away from the Ferrari-McLaren fight, which is still led by Danny Rick. It should have been, probably, by now, Lando Norris fighting Gasly. Maybe even Lando Norris ahead of Gasly, but after he collided with us at Luffield, which was no intention of mine, I thought I left him in enough space. But again, sending it down the inside there, I've done it before in races before I started YouTube. It's risky, and generally I just don't do it. Unless you've already got a good overlap on them, just don't. It's too risky in my opinion. But we are starting to catch up to Pierre Gasly and get away from his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. We could actually be looking good for more than 2 points here in Silverstone. We're certainly looking good to continue our points run. Only 70% way there. It was at 60 something when we started the Grand Prix. That will be fine. We'll just replace it for the next Grand Prix. I actually have a fairly unworn one. It's like just a bit less of that, maybe about 60% too, but might use that one for the next Grand Prix, Hungary. And then I have one more for the final 3 rounds of the season. That should make it there. We are catching up to Gasly, as I'm sure you guys can see, while not taking too much out the mediums. But, you know, less than 10 laps to go here. Give it a little bit of a push. Put your foot to the floor. We're not catching on Sainz, we're just catching on Gasly. I don't know if he's struggling a little bit. I don't know what it is, but certainly hasn't got the pace we've seen him have before. It's good for us versus him. Also in our rivalry against Sebastian Vettel, now 12 seconds. He was rivaling us a little bit at the start of the Grand Prix, but then we started to catch back up to Yuki Tsunoda, put in decent laps, and now we're extending the lead. It's now 1.8 to Pierre here, and I don't know if that was me who took that out last lap, but I have also taken out my braking point there, which is rather frustrating for me because I sort of know where it is, but it would be helpful if I had the 50-meter board left. I'm going to continue on with this one, but I have to say, the Red Bull's looking good. Verstappen's got a lot of pace. There's a chance that Perez could be trying to set up an overtake on one of the Mercedes, because if he's got the same pace as his teammate, he can probably get past them maybe at some point. There's still plenty of time left in this one. Yes, we are over halfway into the Grand Prix, but anything can happen here at Silverstone. We've seen drama already. Hopefully, it's cooking up a little bit more. Well, the gap to the Frenchman, Pierre Gasly, is certainly not increasing. That's all I'm going to say in this situation, as we're trying to use a bit of DRS, trying to push it to get DRS later on, just after the winding S's section here. Lovely section. We've got the DRS. We're catching up to Pierre as Verstappen sets 1 minute 30. 8.68. Our best, 1 minute 39. So actually, we're not going too badly here. We're going very nicely round Silverstone at the moment. Just going to have to try and catch up a little bit closer to Pierre Gasly. I have to say, at races like France, the field was a lot closer. At the moment, it isn't really that close. And we go quickest, 1 minute 38. A little bit quicker than Max Verstappen's fastest lap. Third fastest lap in a row at the moment. Whether we'll keep it or not, I don't know. Certainly don't think that was that fantastic a lap, to be honest with you. But I'll take a fastest lap, certainly. That's another point. Not 2, like in F2. I think it should be 2, actually. That's not just because I've taken it. We've made a little mistake there. We've got to try and get close to Pierre Gasly. Close enough for a DRS so that we can go for an overtake. It's going to be difficult, but, you know, I think we can get it done. We're increasing the gap to Tsunoda, and then Vettel behind. Of course, Aston Martin aren't going to be scoring points at this rate once again. Neither are Alpine. They've been really struggling so far. Don't forget that my teammate is still defending from an extremely long train of cars here in this one. We are getting closer to Pierre Gasly. And I do have actually a favourite overtaking opportunity on this track, and surprisingly it isn't into Brooklands, it isn't into that right-hander we're heading towards. It's actually heading down the hill from there. Really like to try and send it into there nice and cleanly into that left-hander. And we're actually getting pretty close to Gasly this lap. Come on, Pierre, if you'd like to just sort of stop and let us get to you, mate. That would be lovely. We're really catching up to him. Is it close enough? Nope, not yet. But we're right on him. And I can certainly push to try and get a little closer here. We're edging closer, but not being able to go for a move. This might be sort of the last overtaking you're going to see from us in the Grand Prix. And certainly, at the moment, Gasly's got decent pace. He's not that much slower than us, probably by like a couple of tenths a lap here. Maybe 3, 4. I've had some really decent laps recently, as now we're chasing him. We're going to use the ERS. We're going to use the DRS. I don't want the inside line, mate. I don't want it, as we lock up a lot into it. Not going to try the dive bomb down the inside line, because Lando Norris found out earlier what happens when you try it. You learn that you ain't doing it again, and we're going to continue the run with Pierre Gasly. This is a jolly long battle here. Into Cops we head. No sort of action there, but through Magnus and Beckett's, we're going to go. Then, you know, Church, and I think it is Church. And then we are going to be into the DRS straight. Two of them on this lovely long circuit at the moment. And I think my teammates lost the position to Lando Norris, who's making his way back up the order. We're going to send it down the inside line of Pierre Gasly. Go for the acceleration on the exit. Do we get it done? Yes, we do. Is he going to try and send it down the inside line? We sort of just careful into that corner. Don't want a collision. And there we go. That is P8 here. And that is a very solid P8 indeed.
Gap to the car ahead is 7.5 seconds.
We are running along nicely in this Grand Prix. Still putting in good lap times. Still doing what we need to do. But in no man's land now. We haven't gained on Leclerc and Sainz. We've just gained on Gasly. So really we've got similar pace to them at the moment in the Grand Prix. Despite a few lovely outbursts. There we are. P8 with the fastest lap. That is heading towards 5 points at our home Grand Prix. I'm certainly not going to say no to that after P15 on the grid, with a quite frustrating quali session for me and a 5-place grid penalty. Fantastic job defending, but it does seem he's got the hardest of them all to defend from here. And there goes Lando Norris down the inside line. He's going to try and defend it as Robert. Come on, Robert. But yeah, he's just sort of fighting a losing fight here. You know, it's not really going to be possible for him to stay ahead of Lando for that long. We might stay ahead of him for a bit until he ends up spinning around. He probably got past us in the end. But there you go, Lando Norris back up into P13. But points looks pretty unlikely. Lovely replay. With that overtake, hopefully my teammate Robert can keep likes of Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen and George Russell behind. We're going pretty nicely at the moment. You know, P8, somehow we've got the fastest lap. Gasly, we aren't struggling him off really. He's certainly still got pace. We know that because it took us a while to gain about 4 seconds to him, you know. But Max Verstappen retakes the fastest lap. Fair enough, mate. Bottas, then Hamilton, then Perez. Righty. Well, I don't know what's happening here. Just some newfound grip on worn tyres for those boys out front. We're pretty much stabilising the gap to Sainz and Leclerc, who are in front. They're still on the back of Danny Rick. Whatever happens, it's just a train in this one. No one can really overtake in that one. It's a shame. It would be nice to have a battle. It only seems to be the further back cars that are having a battle, but my teammate's still defending this lap and then 2 more in the Grand Prix to go. Now then, on to the final lap here at Silverstone. Same to VRS for it. Well, it's certainly not going to get the fastest lap. Might as well have a crack at something decent. Throw everything at it as we take the usual line through there.
Final lap of the race.
Don't need another warning, I don't think, because that will be costly. I'll just take that line because I did quali yesterday.
Some time to the car behind.
Was it the day before yesterday? No, I can't even remember. I did the quali pretty recently. And it was like absolute ridiculous. Like it was pretty horrible in the wet. Through there, I just took that because I didn't want to take the corner properly. Because I didn't want to end spinning. So that was my solution to it. But now, I know I can take it flat, but I just don't. So, it's not me trying to gain a couple of tenths or anything, you know? But we are going pretty nicely this lap. We've reduced the gap to the Ferraris by like 5 tenths in quite a few laps. The McLaren, Rick, is still in front of Charles Leclerc. I think Sainz is getting held up by some back markers. As we, well, probably shouldn't have taken that flat out there. I don't know why I'm still taking it flat out in this Grand Prix, because I felt the car starting to go a little bit through that section there. We just need to attack it. Max Verstappen wins for Red Bull, a dominant victory, with Hamilton third, Bottas fourth, and it's Ricciardo versus Leclerc on the final lap. Is Charles going to do it? Yes, he is. Charles Leclerc in P5. Fantastic from the Monegasque. But then it's Ricciardo back in front. Photo finish, and it's Ricciardo back in front. We're going to come home for P8. Well, the replay of this is certainly necessary before we get to the podium. Charles Leclerc was in P6, chasing down Danny Rick, who's in P5. Goes around the outside line there. Manages to stick it through there. Now is he going to try and send it down the inside line? He's up into P5. He outbreaks the McLaren, but the McLaren's still got a bit of an overlap, sends it back down the inside line. Fantastic last lap fighting here. These two, side by side, and then Danny Rick crosses the line by just 1 car length. What a dramatic finish for those two. Fantastic to see.
Here we are then, a fantastic British Grand Prix, and what a performance it was from our race winners today. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Well, here we are then, the final results for the British Grand Prix. Really great one for us, from P15 to P8. But let's focus on the winner, Max Verstappen, with a lovely one-stop from first on the grid. Nice and simple one there, dictated the race, and he's won by 3 seconds. His best lap, 1 minute 29.6, which means that he takes an extra point along with that 25. He will gain a lovely 8 points on Valtteri Bottas in the Drivers' Championship. Bottas, of course, starting P2 and finishing P2 ahead of his Mercedes teammate. Solid work from Valtteri there. You know, he needed a P2 to stay close to Verstappen, but of course Hamilton with P3 drops further away from both of them and is starting to drift away from the title fight with 4 rounds to go. You know, Verstappen and Bottas have been very consistent so far. If Hamilton can't get some really great, outstanding wins and results in, meanwhile Verstappen and Bottas are struggling, he's pretty much out of the title fight. But you can't rule him out yet. Sergio Perez pretty much is. P4 once again. He was close. 12 points for him though. Losing 3 more to Hamilton. 6 more to Bottas. And then a whopping 14 to Verstappen. You know, they still need him, the Red Bull, for the fight against Mercedes. And they've actually beaten Mercedes this weekend, but they're going to need him to try and get up there with some points for the Drivers' Championship and to help them out in the Constructors. Danny Rick started P7, flying up the order to P5. Really great work from the McLaren driver. Best lap, a 1 minute 31. 1, 2, oh, sort of the best of the rest apart from ourselves. We went very nicely. It was just solid from Danny Rick there. He was stuck behind the Ferraris for the whole of the first stint, once he'd got back past Pierre Gasly, and then managed to get ahead of them in the pits, and they pretty much remained stationary until Charles Leclerc protested on the final lap, but couldn't make the move stick to the line. 10 points for McLaren. Still a loss in this race weekend, but only by 4, and that's going to help Ricciardo catch up to Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship, and also get further ahead of Sainz, who finishes P7 from 5th on the grid. 6 points for him, disappointing from what was a very decent qualifying result ahead of his teammate and Danny Rick, but drops down to P7. So Carlos has a bit of a disappointing result. Charles Leclerc, P6 for Ferrari, 6th to 6th. Didn't lose a position in the end, didn't gain a position. A 1 minute 31.61, his fastest lap. Another 8 points for the Ferrari man, a solid result, and getting him further towards a cemented 5th place by the end of this season. Good result. You know, he was ahead of Ricciardo by the end of the first stint, but protested it on the last lap after losing it in the pits and couldn't get the move done. But great to see him putting in some more consistent results. We are P8 from P15 on the grid. My target was P10 points, and we've taken a lovely P8 here at the British Grand Prix. I really enjoyed that one. That was a super nice drive. Sometimes you get really good drives, sometimes you get pretty tedious drives, and then sometimes you just get frustrating drives, like generally wet, slippery races. But a really enjoyable drive for me, P15 to P8 in the end. My best lap only 36.59. P9. That's quicker than Ricardo, Leclerc and Sainz's best lap. We take 4 points, and that will certainly go nicely to our already very, very high tally. Pierre Gasly, P9, the Frenchman for AlphaTauri from P8 on the grid. We managed to get the overtake on him a bit later in the race. Still 2 points though for him and AlphaTauri. They're looking pretty good at the moment in the constructors for a P6. His best lap though, better than ours, 1 minute 35.85. Overall, for his best lap, had better pace than the McLarens and the Ferraris. Couldn't stick with him though in this one. Finishes 7 seconds behind, just behind us, whole second. Not too bad a result for Pierre Gasly. Again, consistent, and that's what he needs to be, and that's what he is. Yuki Tsunoda, P10. Really great from the Japanese man, loving it from, yes, P9, but we did come back up the field a bit after a disappointing Q3. Was here last time, a bit deflated after Q3, and now I'm absolutely bubbly. Bubbly after that fun race. Yuki Tsunoda, P10 now, from P9 on the grid. That one-stopper, everyone did the one-stopper really, I don't know why I'm talking about the pit stops at the moment. His best lap 1 minute 31.4. He was really off the pace of his teammate and us, but again, a solid result, because yes, he's off the pace of his teammate and us, but he's a lot younger driver, a rookie, and he was significantly quicker than Seb Vettel and Esteban Ocon. Talking about Seb Vettel, P11, 1 place from the points there. Just a solid race, but finished quite a bit behind Yuki Tsunoda. Lando Norris recovered to P12 after his spin, started P19, got up to P11, spun around, had to do it all over again, and reached P12 in the end. It could have been, possibly, P8 at the end of the race. His best lap was quicker than his teammate and the Ferrari drivers and us, and Pierre Gasly. So he probably would have been finishing ahead of us, maybe even getting to the back of that Ferrari and McLaren battle. I doubt he would have got anything in there, but if he was at the back of that, and could have helped his teammate maybe a little bit pressuring the Ferraris, that would have been great. But that incident, I'd call it a racing incident. Tell me what you think down below in the comments, guys, at Luffield. But it was costly for him, and thankfully we didn't end up getting caught up in it too, because he had to let all those other cars safely come through to rejoin. It could have been just losing a position, maybe of 10 seconds, losing something like 20, 25 seconds, and dropping way down the order. A shame for the McLaren driver. Hopefully he can bounce back next time, but it's certainly not looking great in the Drivers' Championship. Esteban Ocon, Alpine still yet to score. I can't believe this. 6 out of the 10 Grand Prix on the checklist have been firmly ticked, and Alpine still yet to score. Ocon from a promising P10 down to 13. Didn't have the pace today. Finished quite a bit off Vettel in the end. Just not where they need to be. They've dropped back, and it looks like no points this season unless they get a change in what's happening. My teammate Robert Schwartzman, P13 to P14. He got promoted 1 place because of a grid penalty for me. Really great to see him there. Fantastic result for my teammate. That's what I'm calling it. Really happy. Rookie F2 teammate finally getting a decent result. Robert Schwartzman, P14. I'm happy to say that, considering there were 20 finishers. From 13th on the grid. Good result with Lance Stroll, P15. He finished behind my teammate in a little bit of a train. Schwartzman with some great defending. Stroll struggling with low focus. Alonso, P16 from 20th. Not really good enough for him. But the Alpines don't have much pace. So he probably would have qualified like, I don't know, P13. So really, it's not that bad considering their pace that he's managed to get ahead of the Alfa Romeos. Well, one of them. Well, both of them actually. One of them properly, But P20 to P16, helped by a DNF. So, it's a bit of a mixed one. It's a bit of a mixed one there for him. Not the best of races, really. Qualifying, he's recovered, but not to where he wanted to be. Kimi Raikkonen, P17 for Alfa Romeo from P18 on the grid. Just not that great of a race for him. Should be a little bit closer to the back of Alonso, considering where they are in the R&D. George Russell, P18 for Williams, with Mazepin, P19, and Latifi, P20. Russell, right on the back of Raikkonen, actually, by about 6 seconds. Very good, considering Russell's in a Williams that is certainly struggling in the R&D. Nikita Mazepin and Nicholas Latifi off the pace, specifically Latifi, had an absolute disaster. Might have been quicker in his best lap by quite a lot than Nikita Mazepin, but that's been proved costly. And then your 2 men that didn't finish the race, Antonio Giovinazzi from a very exciting P12, sadly had a mechanical failure. And Mick Schumacher from an exciting P16 from him, sadly had a mechanical Shame for those two, but the cruelty of F1 has affected them. We are still yet to have a mechanical failure here. It's quite surprising, hopefully. That does actually continue. We've done great on durability so far. Your driver standings then, Valtteri Bottas remains leader, but the gap is down to 18 points to Max Verstappen. Which means that if Bottas DNF's next race, Verstappen wins, Verstappen is the championship leader. The gap has been closed down, but Hamilton's 38 points behind his teammate and 20 behind Verstappen. He's drifting away from the title fight without some good results coming up soon. He might be out of it pretty much by the end of the next Grand Prix. If he finishes behind Bottas and Verstappen at the next Grand Prix, he's out of the title fight, really. And then Checo Perez, the same has to be said, but he's going to need a miracle in the last 4 races. He's 66 points at the moment. Bottas has only got twice that. 49 points off the lead, you know, he's quite a bit off. He's only 11 points off Hamilton, so he could fight for third, but I just can't really see him getting into the title fight this season. He's had some bad luck at the start, and that's been costly. Charles Leclerc dropped down to P5, not really surprised. That's where I think he'll stay. 64 points. The nearest car with a similar area in the R&D, Danny Rick, with 40, that's 24 less. So Charles Leclerc, P5 with 64 points. We are P6 with 48. We are, though, dropping back to the McLarens and the Ferraris. I'm probably predicting a P8 finish this season. I would be happy with that, really. Very happy with that, to be honest with you. Danny Rick, of course, P7, 8 points behind us on 40. He's ahead of Carlos by 4 after that fantastic result today. They'll want to continue their momentum into Hungary. Pierre Gasly, P9 for AlphaTauri. Just 25 points for the Frenchman at the moment at this stage in the season. It's been a solid one from him. We should be able to comfortably finish ahead of him. He just keeps putting in good results, and that has clocked him up equivalent to a race win in terms of points. Lando Norris P10 with 23. God, he's struggling at the moment. 17 points behind his teammate Danny Rick, who's having not that great of a season so far, you know. So look, Lando is just struggling, really. He's had bad luck at Bahrain. He had bad luck at Imola. Started to brighten up a bit for him in Spain. France, he was okay in terms of a result. Austria, he was okay in terms of a result, but then he's had bad luck again today. Bad luck in quali, bad luck in the race. It's been a disaster season so far for Lando Norris. Hopefully he can recover maybe to his teammate and Sainz with some great results later in the season. I keep saying that it's not really happening. Then we can look further down the order. P11, Seb Vettel still on 9 points, but Yuki Tsunoda right behind him also on 9. The battle for 11th is on. Nothing separating those two apart from the highest points finish they've had. That goes to Vettel. But it's Vettel versus Tsunoda, and AlphaTauri certainly have the pace advantage. So watch out for Yuki really pushing onto the German in the next few races. It's those two fighting in the Drivers' Championship. Lance Stroll still has 2 points and is still 13th, despite the lack of focus. That was from early in the season at Bahrain. Since then, it's all gone downhill with plenty of DNFs and poor results. Then you've got the Alpines still yet to score. Alfa Romeo's still yet to score. The Williams still yet to score. The Haas still yet to score. And my teammate Robert still yet to score. Then your constructor standings, the final thing to look at. 192 points for Mercedes AMG Petronas, ahead of Red Bull, who have 163. The gap's been close to 29. That is still quite a lot. Red Bull have got a lot of work to do going into the final few Grand Prix. They're going to need to be consistently finishing ahead of Mercedes and be needing Mercedes mechanical failures and Red Bull triumphs. Ferrari have 100. Really nice work from them. Only, yes, 92 points behind the lead. They've drifted away from that since Spain, but Ferrari P3 with McLaren P4. And it's not close between those two, to say the least. 37 points separating them. That is a massive chunk for the Ferrari-McLaren battle. Ferrari just continue to be consistent. Third on the podium is theirs. We are currently still P5 as a team. Are we going to stay there? I am not sure. It depends if AlphaTauri can continue with some fantastic results. We have 48 points. AlphaTauri fighting with us for 5th in the Constructors have 34. What an exciting Season 1 we're having at the moment. Aston Martin still have 11. Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Williams has still yet to score. Well then, that is your result. Verstappen triumph. Red Bull revenge. Ricciardo back up there. Disaster for Lando. And strong result from the AlphaTauris. What a Grand Prix. What a British Grand Prix. Really enjoyed this one. If you guys have enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch me next time in this series. And we're going to go to Hungary for a lovely bit of qualifying. Please tell me we're not going to have any rain in it, because that would make a nice change.